Hola todos, how we doing? Here's our video for chapter 14. Pricing. The pricing P of the 4 Ps. Now, price is probably one of the more complicated of all the 4 Ps, meaning that price is the signal where it's the give-get ratio. Price is that point where you say, okay, I will give something up, a sacrifice, for what I'm getting. The price is right, so to speak. So in other words, when the first iPhone came out, as much as I'm an Apple fan and as much as, I thought the iPhone was very innovative, it was $499. And I thought it was very cool. But at $499, I did not think it was worth it. I didn't think the sacrifice in 500 of my Benjamins was worth what I would get in return for the device. When the price dropped to $199, it was an easier decision to make. So price is that signal. That's where you say, okay, we have a deal. I'll give up my cash, you give me some good or service. Oh, wrong way. It usually is one of the most important factors in purchasing decisions. I mean, it's so salient. Salient means like noticeable. Salient sounds like saline or salt. Like salt is very noticeable in food. The price. How much is that car? How much is that shirt? It's usually one of the first details that we inquire about when we're talking about products and services. What's the price? Very rarely do we think about something without thinking about the price very early on. And of all the 4 Ps, price is the only one that guarantees a revenue stream. Brand indirectly does, channel indirectly does, which is distribution, our last chapter, our last P. So when we talk about pricing, we tend to talk about the 5 Cs of pricing, meaning competition influences our pricing, cost influences our pricing, company objectives influences our pricing, customers, of course, influence the pricing, and channel members, of course, influence the pricing. So first, let's talk about company. And I'll blow this up a little bit. These slides are up on Blackboard too, by the way. Some firms have an explicit profit-oriented goal. If they do, price is always construed as a percentage of margin. Okay, the price of the product, 20% margin. All our products need to have 20% margin or we're not going to make it. I.e., we're not going to sell the good. Some firms have a very sales-oriented type pricing mentality. And these prices, you want more revenue, you want our competitors to suffer. Even if our margins get hit, we want to sell. That's our goal. That's our number one goal, is to move product. This is kind of a Walmart mentality. Customer-oriented. We look to see what our competitors, competitor, then customer. We price based on what our competitors are doing in the marketplaces. We may want to price lower than our competitors to get more revenue. We may want to price higher than our competitors to be perceived as a premium product. And finally, we target upon customer segments. Just like in Chapter 9, STP, we may want to target a particular segment. Targeting a segment is usually done with some element of price. If you want to make a premium beer has to have a certain amount of price to separate it from the good beers and the regular beers and the cheap beers. So this is nothing new. Marketing gets a lot of its information from econ. A lot of you guys already had econ. This is our standard downward sloping demand curve, indicated as price drops, demand increases. If price goes up, demand will drop. And as you know, not all demand curves are downward sloping. We do have luxury goods that the higher the price, the higher the demand. We have other goods, it doesn't make any difference with the demand, the price will continue to drop. Now, some of these things that influences those different shape curves are the elasticity of demand, and I'm a big fan that there's rubber bands here up on the screen. So watch my hands going like this. That's what a rubber band does. It stretches. If we have a price and the price is elastic, meaning it's stretched, we have your standard kind of economics downward sloping demand curve type scenarios. Meaning, guess what? If price drops, people will buy more. If price increases, people will buy less. Tesla keeps trying to come up with they hopefully will have somewhere between a $40,000 to $45,000 car in the next 3 years. Well, at that price category compared to the $80,000 car that they have now, well, they expect to sell much more. Demand will be even higher than it is at the moment. That's an example of a price elastic scenario. Inelastic doesn't stretch. There's some things that are relatively inelastic, like medicine. You only need to take one pill a day, and you have to take it no matter what. You know, it might be heart medicine. So if the price drops, you're still only going to take one a day. You know, gasoline tends to be more inelastic. You have to drive to work, your commute doesn't change. If the price drops, you're happier. You can't buy any more gas because, you know, your tank only fits so much. You know, these tend to be inelastic things tend to be products that are more, maybe I don't want to say that. I wanted to say necessities, but that's not accurate. Consumers are less sensitive to price increases for necessities. You know, I think that's the best way to say it. So, other things that we need to talk about. The income effect. Surprise, surprise, if we have more income, we will spend more. The substitution effect. You know, some products are perfect swaps for each other. So you want to buy a pair of jeans, right? Gap raised their prices $20. Well, you just go from Gap and you go straight into another store. Jeans are jeans. They're too similar. They're substitution for one another. They're direct swaps. So people tend to shop more with these types of products. And they tend to be more price sensitive. Cross elasticity of demand. You know, so this is when we have products that are complements with each other. The book has an excellent example of Blu-ray players and Blu-ray discs. Well, how do you want to sell more discs? You get more people to buy the player. The only way you're going to sell more discs if more people have a Blu-ray player. So there's this cross elasticity. The percentage change in one product influences another. You know, believe it or not, tires are you know, most tires are sold when a vehicle is sold, i.e. new vehicles. So if there's a lot of new vehicle sales, there's a lot of new tire sales. If there's not a lot of new vehicle sales, then there's a significantly less new tire sales. Our third 3C is costs. And again, this is straight out of our Accounting 101 class. We have fixed, variable, and those equal to our total. You know, if there is something left over after we cover our fixed and we cover our variable, we have margin, also known as profit, also known as contribution, also known as black. See, in the accounting literature, if we're profitable, the numbers are in black. If we are not profitable, they tend to be in red. So when people say I'm in the red, I'm in the black, profitable, red, loss. So this is something you've been exposed to before. We have a toolkit to help you out with something along these lines. I don't need to spend a whole lot of time here. You will not have to calculate any break even on the exam, but you will be asked what it is and how do you calculate it. Like this slide. Okay? So our fourth C, we have competition. And pretty much every chapter this semester, we had a 2x2 matrix. So here we have fewer firms and many firms, and we have less competition and more competition. If we have less competition and a few firms, we have a monopoly. Right? If we have more competition but still a few firms, we have an oligopoly when there's only 2 or 3 players in the marketplace. You know, airlines, cell phones. If we have many firms but less price competition, we tend to have monopolistic competition. You know, where so many different companies are selling so many different products at different prices that, you know, they're not impacted by each other. The more standard of the 4 quadrants is pure competition. Many firms selling the same thing for the same prices or competing against each other. And finally, our last C are our channel members. And the channel members influence pricing strategy. Particularly if you think about a Costco, you think about a Walmart, you think about a BJ's, that depending on the quantities they buy and how they sell is what the price will be. The chapter wraps up with talking about economic factors that can influence pricing. We've already indirectly talked about cross-shopping here. Well, globalization helps increase interest in products from abroad. It also increases interest in products going from country A to country B. It also increases manufacturing. We had an example with Apple not that long ago where the supply chain was all over the planet. So this can influence overall pricing. Disposable income, either increasing or decreasing disposable income, will impact spending. You know, you may not buy the same brand names all the time, or you may not buy as frequently if your disposable income is dropping. If we have more status and we want more brand, we're probably going to pay more, and we're okay with paying more. And lastly, we have our local economic conditions. You know, relatively speaking, the U.S., although we have slow growth, we tend to be quite steady. We cannot say the same thing for Greece. We cannot say the same thing for Spain, even Italy for certain. You know, what's happening in the Spanish market where 25 to 33% of the country does not have employment at the moment. You know, that's not optimal. We have slow growth, but at least we have some growth. That influences this. Okay? If you have any particular questions on this chapter, we will do more pricing stuff in Thursday's class with chapter 15. Thanks.